Hillsdale Board of Trustees is called to order. First of all, roll call shows members Allen, Negus, and Stockford present, members Palladino and Hill absent. We'll move on to the approval of the agenda. Does anybody have any changes they wish to make to the agenda as presented? All right, seeing no suggested changes, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Okay.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Next, we have the approval of the minutes of our meeting of February 8th. I recall having read these minutes when they were originally prepared, and that they agreed with my own notes and recollections. Does anybody have any questions, comments, or amendments to the minutes of February 8th as presented?
The only thing that I have, which is not that big, but under Director's Report number 12, it's, the last one, it says not open to the public. It actually was open to the public, and there was some miscommunication. But only people from Hillsdale Prep showed up anyways, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
At the time of the meeting, though.
That may have been what was, yeah.
Right.
I think, there was some miscommunication between myself and Hillsdale Prep, because when we originally talked about it, it was just them, and then when they had sent us their flyer, I said, just clarifying, and she said, no, everybody was involved. However, one of their booths here was like Hillsdale Prep yard signs. It was for everybody, but that's all that I had. Whether or not you change it, because it was
Right, I mean, in my opinion, it still accurately reflects what happened at the
What
meeting.
happened.
What we said at the meeting, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so we shouldn't change the minutes to reflect what was actually the case. We should keep them to reflect what we thought at the time.
Right, yeah.
Yes. All right, any other notes or questions regarding the minutes from the last meeting?
This may just be being incredibly nitpicky, but because there is a change to that, just to accurately reflect the event that was held,
Yes.
should we maybe make a note of that,
Yes.
as
In
basically
these
like
minutes?
I don't know
A
if necessarily
correction.
in these minutes, but
Yeah.
almost
Well-
like a redaction type idea.
Well, probably it would be most accurate to reflect it in these minutes, because this is the point at which
Right.
this actually came up when we actually discussed it. So if it's gonna go into the public record anywhere, we should probably note
maybe-
under our discussion, under this point in the meeting, that we discussed this and issued this correction. Yeah, I don't see anywhere else we would put that. So I think we should just include that under item 4, approval of the minutes, just part of discussion. Even though we didn't change anything, we should include a note
Got it, okay.
correcting the record about that particular event. Any other questions or corrections to the minutes of February 8th? Once, twice. All right. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes as presented from the February 8th meeting.
So moved.
Negus moves.
Second.
Okay. Josh seconds.
Josh, okay.
Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We now move on to visitor comments. Do we have any visitors that wish to make any comment this evening? All right, seeing none. Next, the director's report.
Okay, I will begin with just reading some monthly happenings. So in regards to our budget, which in the previous minutes, I mentioned that I submitted the budget the day of our last board meeting. Since then, I then met with finance, which includes Tina and Karen Lancaster, as well as Dave Mackey. Everything was good, nothing crazy, which was pretty much to be expected. They were okay with everything. So yeah, my only note or comment on that in the future, actually, if we do another budget committee, is I actually think we might need to, instead of having a committee that works on the numbers, work on something called the library narrative, which basically actually kind of works like a strategic plan almost, but like a way more condensed, like one-page version. So I think if, again, we do a committee, like I think that would actually be a good way to focus our time, just so it covers things like capital outlay, operational expenses, stuff like that, which, not to say that help with the actual numbers isn't necessary, but I do think that actually would be a good use of a committee's time. So that was just my comment on that. Stephanie may have brought this up, but unfortunately our key opportunities / JET volunteers are no longer using us as their host site. They ended on Tuesday, and actually at the time that I had written my notes, I said, unfortunately we only get 1 or 2 volunteers, but we have loved the help and we can get it. And then our person told me that they were done. So they are no longer helping us out, but we did really appreciate the help when they were here. So you may have seen our Facebook post, but due to the city replacing water valves around us and by Davis Middle School, we are going to be closed on March 26th and the 28th, which unfortunately is spring break, so I would hope that we could be open for kids to be here, but I'm assuming the city planned water work during spring break because the kids will be there, so it's kind of a double-edged sword on that, or you know. And next item of business. At the time I wrote this, I said I am mostly and almost a notary public, but now I am, and I had my first person today, so that is cool. Happy to bring that back. Going back to February, we were closed on February 27th for the primaries. We didn't get much foot traffic, however, I feel like since it was the primaries, I don't know how much people come out to vote for that election. Not as much as we kind of had assumed, but it's okay. On February 29th, we held the literacy night for Hillsdale Prep, and we, although nobody that wasn't affiliated with them attended, we did have 60 people. It was very well attended, it was very hot in here, but they all seemed to like it and it worked out well. Going back again, I think in January I asked for your guys' approval for a grant from the Community Foundation for summer reading. We were approved for that, and I believe I heard about that probably the week after our last board meeting, and I had gotten the check at the end of February, and I very quickly ordered everything because all the prices of everything kept going up, so I wanted to submit that. And so we have been moving along with summer reading. I actually meant to bring one of the I can say passports. So for summer reading, we're doing passports, and we're like customizing them. It's very cool. So I can bring one to our next board meeting. So yeah, we've just been adding in stuff there. Last thing I have written down is just that tonight Heidi is doing some outreach at Geyer for their literacy night. I completely meant to attend that as well, and then realized I will be here for this meeting. So I am here and she is there. So that is all that. We really didn't have a lot going on during the month of February. We weren't really closed for any days besides the primaries, but just not too interesting of a month, I guess. So moving on to the February statistics that I have prepared for you guys. So a lot of things when you look at it, you notice that I use like the whole up and down with up in red, or up in green, down in red. A lot of the stuff actually is up aside from all of our financials, which that kind of stinks. But the one thing I want to point out, or a few things I want to point out from circulation. So at the point that I had done this, we were up to 65 total circulations of the backpacks. And as you can see looking at that cart, there are only 4 on there. So that is actually pretty often. There's normally only 4 or 5 on there, which is, I guess, cool in a sense. We have gotten, like I said, 65 total circulations, so we're over the halfway mark for May. And I'm sure that's probably already up 10 more circulations since the start of this week. Again, at the bottom of that same thing, it says children's items are always circulated more than YN adults. So I'm kind of posing some questions or some things for you guys to think about. How can we get and retain patrons beyond our youth patrons? Because we see a lot of young youth kids come in and read our books with their parents, but as they slowly get older, they don't come to the library so much. So I guess I'm just kind of posing to you guys if you had any ideas. Not that you have to speak on it right now, but if you guys had any ideas on maybe why, although I kind of know a few reasons why, but just what could we maybe be doing better to retain our patrons? What else do I really want to point out? Nothing too much from circulation really jumped out at me. When I say February was not anything crazy, but were you about to ask me something?
I was.
Okay.
I was gonna hold off, but you're very perceptive. About the circulation, do you count the Libby checkout?
Yes.
Adults and
So, did you say between?
like, for the adults and young adults, like, do you count the Libby circulation as?
We count the Libby circulations and we get the statistics for it, but it does not differentiate between like adult and young adult.
Right.
At least as far as I'm aware, that would have to be like an incredibly specific filter, but I don't I don't think Libby or Hoopla knows who the card holder is to be like, that is a young person checking that out, because we don't have that sort of specification on when we sign people up for our cards.
Right. I just wonder, does that account a little bit for the patron, like maybe their behavior changes to where they check out on Libby rather than
start doing more electronic stuff.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, mainly for adults. I feel like adults, especially after COVID, are way into, and no problem with it, but way into like ebooks and e-audiobooks. I have heard, not even just working here, but for the past few years, that a lot of people don't come into the library anymore except for to get their library card or to reactivate it, because they go into the library, get it, and then go back to do Libby or Hoopla and then never come in. Which, again, if you're an electronic reader and that works best for you, that works best for you. At least you're giving us statistics that way. So yeah, we don't get a lot of statistics or data from Libby or Hoopla, because I don't know how much they would share with us.
Yeah.
Because it would get a little deep searching into their, I don't know how much they can share about their stuff, because it's ethical or unethical. So, if nobody else has questions there, is it okay if I move on to program?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, please.
We actually, for programming, as you can see, a lot of people have been attending our things, which to me, even though February wasn't that much of a wintry month, like we didn't get a lot of snow or anything, it does seem weird I shouldn't say weird. It would make sense to me that during the winter months, people didn't come to the library so much because it's cold, people want to stay home and not go out and do so much stuff. But I feel like we had a really good winter of people coming to the library, despite the few wintry days that we had, all of the closures that we had in January, all that sort of stuff. So I'm pretty happy with how things are going there, especially also because Yoga with Rhonda in January had very little amounts of people attending, because we had so many closures and things happening on Monday, and she didn't lose anybody. Like, people still come back to her, so she does a really amazing job with keeping the people that attending. So yeah, and I guess I could include again the 60 people that came for literacy night for prep, or Hillsdale prep here, but I already mentioned that. So I'll move on to the miscellaneous stats. So we were open for 159 hours. It's up a little bit from January, but that's nothing really to talk about because February was a shorter month, and we had a lot of patron visits. Really not a lot of them were due to the election. Normally our patron visits for a month is somewhere in the 2300s. Here, like I said, the elections, we only got about 800 people for that. So if you subtract 800 from 4,300 to 37, that's 3,500 basically. So we were still up without the primaries involved in that anyways. A lot of people asking us questions, a lot of people visiting our website, and a lot of people interacting with our social media. So a lot of good things happening, a lot of positive publicity, a lot of positive interactions, all that stuff. So that's always, again, something to be happy about. Moving on to the financials. I don't know how much you guys really want me to break down. There's a lot of red, so I honestly it just wasn't a month where we made much money from printing or anything like that. Something to note in the future though, probably that will be reflected at our next meeting. We got more money from the Kunesh, just another insurance payout thing, I don't know. And also, it wouldn't surprise me if our printing, copying, and faxing is down again because we only have 2 computers that will print. So we should have 10 computers that the public can use. Like half of them have been down for what feels like time immemorial. And of the few that are up and running, for some reason, half of them don't communicate with our printer. Brandon was supposed to come today, he didn't. So I'm hoping maybe tomorrow, and then, yeah, because really, if more than 2 people are coming in to print, it's a really awkward situation for us to tell them, yeah, we have computers, but you can't do what you want to do. So I'm hoping that gets fixed soon. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if next month things are again looking a little down. So moving on to the actual financial reports. The first one should be the revenue and expenditures for everybody, I believe. I know last month George had asked the questions about the state grant and I believe penal fines and maybe one more. Just to give a response to everybody on that. So the way that the state grant works and when that money actually dispersed to us is just very weirdly aligned with our fiscal year. So we haven't not received money yet. It's just the way that the Library of Michigan sends us money. It just works out very weirdly. So there's nothing to be concerned about with that. Penal fines also get paid out like the last day of our fiscal year. So we don't see any of that until, like I said, the last, I guess I could say week.
So same with state grant though, typically?
State grant, so normally, the way that state grant works is when libraries submit it, which it opens up in October, if you're one of the first few libraries to submit it, you're the first to get paid. So I submitted it at the beginning of January, so I was kind of like middle of the pack. Normally we would get paid, or in years prior we have gotten paid around late March, early April, so maybe by our next meeting it will be reflected the first half. Now we get a second half that comes in August, but because it is from the previous year, when it gets sent to finance, they backdate it to the previous fiscal year. And then also, most of that money gets sent to our cooperative, because that's how our state aid works. I can't remember what the third one was.
I think that's number 587, contribution local units - culture / rec, which is 13,800, and I believe that's our contracted fees from our townships. So
Which one are, wait, what?
so under library fund, under the revenues, number, it's the number that ends in 587.
Oh, that's the last one that you had asked about?
Right. And I recall you did get back to me with an answer, so I can pull
Okay.
up that communication. Have you had any communications from the townships at all?
I have not.
Okay.
I don't know if that's something that they would communicate with me,
Mhm.
or if they just know to pay finance, because we haven't changed our contract with them or anything,
Mhm.
so it should be the same monetary amount that comes to us.
Yes. So we'll need to keep an eye on that. I can dig back through my communications.
Okay.
Does that have some sort of an increase clause too? I wonder when that was set and how much it increases, because of course the taxes are going up for our citizens.
Yeah,
Maybe it's built into it, it probably is.
that one in particular, I can't remember if that's a number, so like when we were doing our budget work, like finance works and they create the number for current taxes and all that, so that might be a number that they set themselves that I don't have.
So yes, looking back through answers we got a little over a year ago about this, the previous director said the city bills the townships in February. Invoices are due within 30 days, so generally we should see those in March or April. So we should see those soon.
So
Okay.
that is the township's money.
Yes, and it's the city billing the townships, and yes, that's the agreement between Hillsdale and Jefferson Township for them to use the community library.
Oh, it was 13,800 then too.
Yes,
Oh,
so
that is
it
specific.
hasn't increased, it has fixed. I would guess any increase would depend on renegotiation of those contracts.
Mhm.
So it's billed February, usually paid by April.
Yes.
Thank you.
So one thing we may need to discuss is whether or not there should be some kind of small but steady increase to reflect our own our cost to our own local patrons in terms of taxes. Because what shouldn't be happening is that local patrons that live within city limits are paying more to support the library than those who live outside city limits who are receiving the same privileges. So we should probably look into that. Does anyone else have any questions about revenues? Anything unusual or to point out regarding expenditures this month?
Actually going back to the revenues,
Sure.
I don't know if this came up at our last board meeting. Under the revenues, the very last one, so 692.011, Tina created, I don't wanna say work together because she just typed something in, but she created that other revenues, miscellaneous grants, just sometimes, like that $750 is from the Hillsdale County, Hillsdale Community County, whatever HCCF is, I can never keep the two C's in order, but, yeah, that's what that is, so it's just if we kinda get a grant that isn't really specific to one or the other, just wanted to point that out, so we can move on to expenditures.
Anyone have any questions regarding expenditures? Nothing caught my eye this month. Rebecca, was there anything you wanted to point out?
The only thing that I wanted to point out, which again, I'm not sure if it came up at our board meeting or if it was something that George and I had just talked about in our agenda meeting, is that the line ending in 750, periodicals and magazines, I think it came up that we were curious why we haven't spent any money on that. I was told that supposedly some organization or agency donates that sort of stuff to us. I don't know if that's true, so I don't know. We don't really get a lot of people looking for magazines at the library anyways.
But you haven't seen any bills from any of our periodicals providers?
No. No, the only thing we get is from the Wall Street Journal, which they basically want our money, but I haven't done that.
But the print periodicals keep showing up, and we're just not seeing any bills from them, as far as we can tell.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in terms of periodicals, you're referring to magazines, correct?
Right, and newspapers.
So newspapers, we receive no bill, or
Okay.
they show up, we're not ever billed for it, sorry.
Okay.
Magazines, I don't believe we ever get those unless the staff put them out without
Okay.
telling me, but
So there are no regular
I really don't,
We don't actually carry any magazines.
I really don't think we do.
Does anyone remember seeing any magazines out on the shelves? Or just
They're
I
newspapers?
do remember there.
They're in
being
a
some, like,
very
10 years ago.
specific spot in the
Yeah.
Book Nook area,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
when you go and look at the shelving for it, like there's almost nothing on there, and I don't believe anything actually circulates. I think if we do get stuff, it gets put out back there, and we just expect our patrons to look at it in-house,
Right.
and that's that, which isn't uncommon, but
Yeah.
I have never seen anything come in unless, again, like I said, it comes in with the mail and then who's ever at the front desk just puts it out there. But it's not anything I've ever witnessed, and I, over the last 2 months, have spent a lot of time up at the front desk or at the cataloging desk, which is, like right there as well. I haven't seen it, so
Okay.
I'm not sure. I can look into it, I can continue trying to
Yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah, maybe
Um,
ask the staff,
if
what's
they-
going on with the magazines?
Yeah.
Who puts these out here?
Yeah.
I was gonna say, cause my memory is going right now, I feel like I have physically seen magazines
Yeah.
in this
Yes,
building.
yes.
But,
I don't know how recently though, or if
Or-
what we have out there is,
Is
Current,
actually
right?
current issue, if there's a current issue of anything. So yeah,
Mhm.
let's ask the staff,
mhm.
we can have a look at these and
Yeah.
say,
do we have a magazine fairy, cause that's my new favorite library. Let's go.
Yeah, it sounds bad because it feels like something that like I should know because I'm here every day, but at the same time, like I don't tend to walk back to that corner every day because
Right.
I don't feel like I need to be back in that corner every day. So,
okay,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, let's look into that. Figure out what subscriptions do we actually officially have and what's just showing up for some reason.
Because of the magazines, right?
Yeah.
The newspaper though is coming.
We luckily
We
get
still
that
don't pay for it.
pretty regularly,
Okay.
as well as
The Hillsdale Daily News.
yeah, and the Collegian. That's the
Yes,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
college newspaper. Okay, good. Right, any other questions regarding revenues or expenditures? No? Rebecca, anything else to point out?
The only thing else that I will point out, which might actually not be something that would show up on here, but rather the balance sheet, we have to issue 2 refunds to 2 different organizations. So in the future, if you see the in parentheses like negative numbers, that's what it'll be. We'll only be losing, I think, $150, but not anything that
And
we'll be fine without it.
who
But.
are we refunding for what?
So the first thing is, through Mel, we loaned West Branch Library an item and it was then marked as missing, like we couldn't ever find it, and they paid us for it. And that library was just about to submit something to the Library of Michigan to get a reimbursement because they knew that they had sent it back to us. We couldn't find it, so obviously something had to happen in transit. Well, it turns out that this specific DVD, it is a box set, and for some reason, whoever cataloged it put 2 different barcodes on a box set instead of putting 1 barcode for both. And so to us, we didn't really think much of it, and we just assumed that it was lost. So we're refunding the money because we do actually have the item. Luckily, we have been like in communications with them a lot, so no hard feelings there. The other one is a room rental, which, that one was for some Michigan online school, and they were just doing state testing or standardized testing and using our meeting rooms. The person who originally contacted us quit their job, and then the new person that took over just apparently wasn't vibing with the idea. It was a very abrupt email that they sent us that they no longer wanted to have the rooms here, so we have to refund them that back as well.
Thank you.
So yeah, that again might be jumping forward to the balance sheet. I'm really not sure where that ends up. It'll probably show up on both because we'll have it under the accounts payable.
Yeah.
So, just to let you guys know in the future.
Fine. Anybody else have any questions about the balance sheet? No? Nothing mysterious or alarming appears to have happened, so I think we're all right. Okay. Anything further under the director's report?
Nope.
All right. Next item on the agenda is our regular communication from Friends of the Library.
We had no meeting because our meeting date would have been the primary, so we canceled it. So our next meeting is March 26th.
The only thing that I know of is that for their 501c3 status, which they have been working on to get back up and running, it was denied because I think the person who was preparing it, I can't remember his name.
I can't either.
Greg Bailey or George
That's it,
Bailey.
Greg Bailey.
Something like that.
I think George Bailey's the
Yeah.
wonderful life
But it's
guy.
his name.
Really?
It really
Okay.
is, because I have
I
every
believe
single
you.
time, I'm like, that's crazy, because they're
Oh,
both
yeah.
financial people.
So,
But anyway.
so what happened? I'm sorry.
I think if I understood it correctly, he either did or didn't check a box, so it got denied. Yeah, which really stinks.
That happens.
Yep, and so, I let Bree know, and then Bree let him know, and things are working out on that.
Okay.
So hopefully after that, they'll be in good standing, but like Linda said, they had no February meeting, so.
Okay.
That's that.
So, next is old business. First, adding or amending library policies. The new procedure, having been approved by the board, was sent along to the city attorney for his review. I believe we haven't heard back from
We
him.
have not heard back from him, and
So,
same goes for the unattended children policy.
yeah,
So-
so we are still waiting for the city attorney to say, yes, this is fine, before we can put them into the policy book. The budgetary committee, has not met, recently, so I don't have anything further to say there. We'll officially dissolve the committee once the budget gets final approval at our annual meeting next month. Anything else to say about that, Rebecca?
For the budget committee? No, the only thing that I had to add was what I said at the very beginning.
I like that idea. All right, moving on. Ongoing building issues. Where are we at?
So, I had emailed the folk people because that's what the city was using before. I got a response saying, I'll get back to you after my traveling.
Right.
He never did.
Yeah.
And then at the point of George and I's meeting to set the agenda, I hadn't reached out to him again, just because I was a little bit curious, and George and I talked about this in our meeting, but I wasn't sure if it made sense for us to wait to schedule another estimate because of how our fiscal year is. We are budgeting to make the key lock and door stuff in our next fiscal year. So I didn't know if it made sense to have another estimate and go through the same thing that happened a year ago. And then George had mentioned that likely because the previous director left, that was just something that never happened. Now, I will say, I would imagine there was probably some miscommunication on where we were leaving things. I haven't reached out to him yet to come back. I know that we talked about asking how long their estimates are valid for.
Right. Is it good for 30 days, 60 days?
Yeah, so I didn't know if that was something that everybody agrees that I should just go ahead and ask now. I'm just worried again because like the last time we were worried that the estimate could have changed. So I have no problem asking, I just Does it make sense to wait a little bit, or? No, does anybody have any strong feelings one way or the other?
I'll just jump in and say, thinking about it, we should probably continue to pursue it, if only because, given the history of the difficulty of establishing communications, getting set dates, getting somebody to come in, if we say, well, we'll wait for the next fiscal year, who knows how much that's actually going to kick the can down the road. Like, we could keep trying and still only get them in the middle of June at this point, if not July.
Yeah.
So my instinct is to say we should continue to pursue it and try to get somebody in here and get a new estimate. Even if the new estimate comes to us before the end of this fiscal year, it's something to work with, and then we can actually get something scheduled.
Yeah, okay, yeah,
So that's my instinct. Any other input?
that sounds reasonable.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So yeah, I think we keep pressing it as much as is reasonably courteous, and try to get somebody in here. Has anything else come up since the last meeting?
Nope.
Towards the facilities?
Nothing that I can think of. The only thing that's not true, after the primaries, one of our front doors was left ajar, unlocked all night. So yeah, basically was like this. That makes sense. I'm not sure if maybe they just left and didn't know. I really don't know what happened there. We had G&G Glass come out. They looked at it. The guy fixed it as best as he could without charging us more than just the regular service fee, which was like $150. He basically said, keep using the door like you guys always do, and yeah. So I think the door does have a bit of a problem. To get it fixed, he said it would probably be like the whole thing would need to be looked at. I honestly just think that we occasionally have some people unlocking and locking our doors that don't quite know what they're doing. Not to be,
Right.
but you never know. Really, you don't know.
If you're just letting it close behind you and it's supposed to lock behind you and doesn't, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, and just to also clarify too, because we have the two sets of doors and the gates as well, even if somebody had gotten in, they wouldn't have been able to get past the second set of doors.
Right.
So
they couldn't actually
they
access
couldn't
the
really
inside
get
of the
in.
library.
But I mean, if somebody knew that they could at least get in, if somebody really wanted to get into the library, they could have brought something to continue getting in. Luckily, it didn't happen, so we're okay. So yeah, they did also come out. Everything's fine, but if in the future you guys want to pursue that issue,
And that's G&G Glass.
yes. The guys that came out, they didn't stress it to be a super big deal because the staff doesn't use that door as where we come in and leave at the beginning and the end of the day. So he didn't really make it seem like it was a huge concern of ours at this time. Now, if it completely wasn't locking, then it would be a different situation.
Yeah.
But that's all I have for building issues.
Alright, any questions for the director on that? Alright. Unattended children policy, again, that's waiting approval of the city attorney. Next, this idea about temporary library cards.
Okay, so I have included, it's the last page in your thing. So both of these have been crafted based on what other libraries sent to me back in January, and I kind of hodgepodge them together. Now the first one, the one card, that would be something that people can check out books one at a time, only one at a time. Can't check out anything if they have accrued any fines or fees. Notably also, they couldn't check out new books, potentially place holds. Things that are in highlighted format is if you guys had any thoughts on it, or if you guys have thoughts on the whole thing, that's fine too. They also wouldn't be able to do mail and everything else they would be allowed to do. In there it also says something about an agreement form. I did not make one of those because I didn't want to spend my time figuring that out if you guys didn't wanna go in that direction. So if you guys did, then I would continue the work on that. So I don't know how much you guys want me to read that, but then I'll also show you guys, or explain the other side, which I would imagine might be a little bit more desirable to you guys. It's considered an e-access card, so people can only check out Libby and Hoopla items, as well as it would also work for computer access. The notable thing here is just that, I mean, you can't really get fines or fees on digital items. They return on their own. They can't damage it. And the other thing is, the only rule, I guess, is if they're on our computers and they're doing something they shouldn't, and they do that 3 times, then that's that. So with the e-access card, we wouldn't have to worry about our materials going missing, not coming back damaged, or anything like that. And like I said, after writing both of them, I find myself leaning to the e-access card because, again, there's less liabilities for us to worry with that. But I know that not everybody is an e-content reader. Not everybody has phones. Now, it sure does seem like they do. So yeah, these, again, are things that other libraries have. Like I said, I kind of pieced a few things together. So if you guys think one of them is more desirable, if you guys don't think either of them are, but essentially both of these cards fit or would be for the same type of patron, which would be people who are essentially in transient living situations. They don't have stable housing, they don't have the address that can get them our free library card, but yeah.
Is that described a child, would they also need, or is there a separate provision for children to fit that description?
I did not include that,
Okay.
just because that wasn't anything that I received back from my emails about that. I am thinking if that were the case, that they would be in school.
But the idea is these policies as written would apply to both adult and juvenile patrons.
They would. The only thing is that under the requirements it says be a resident, including homeless residents who do not have a form of ID but can provide a phone or an email that they can be contacted at.
Right.
So I don't know, I mean, I guess if you're a young kid coming in with your parent, yes, they can both be connected to the same. So yes, to
Same
answer
email.
your question, yes.
I was gonna say, because when we're talking about homeless youth specifically, most, to the best of my knowledge, the population that I know of in our area, they are attending school.
Okay.
So they would have like a school email that they can access while they're at school, even though they are currently unhoused otherwise, so.
And the original idea for all of this and temporary card types did come about from considering foster children, but then realized they actually qualify for our regular card anyways.
Right, because they can give a permanent address.
They can, so it's a little bit different. Then we kind of just realized that what it's framed as now makes more sense than having the foster children, because like George said, they can provide the permanent address, the foster parents can be liable for fines, fees, etc. So they take on that responsibility technically. And another thing that Liz Voorhees and I had talked about today too is that I'm not sure how many homeless people would even want this. I don't know. It just does seem nice to kind of have that option. The only way that I could really see us getting people using these cards. It's if we were to like send an advertisement to like the warming center and other locations that they visit.
Or like a QR code.
Yeah, so, because most of the time, if people are homeless or anything of that nature, they really don't tend to come up and talk to us. They're normally coming in, sitting somewhere quiet, you know, using our Wi-Fi, using the restroom, which is fine. So they're, like I said, they're not really coming up and saying, hey, I want this book.
Yeah.
We have had a few situations, but on the most part, like they don't. So that's why I'm thinking the only way that this would really happen is if the information was posted elsewhere and then they came to us. Not that we wouldn't advertise, like if somebody came in and we said, hey, but I think most of them know that they can't get one, so they don't even try at this point.
Right.
So,
I was gonna say, and I know that there are quite a few homeless individuals who do utilize the library regularly, not only because they want to access the library, but also because of the convenience to the warming center. I mean, it's right there, and especially on cold days. Granted, there is an overlap between when the center opens and when we close.
Yeah.
But it's a close enough proximity that it's not.
yeah. Well, and also because I have only been here during cold months, it was also brought to my attention that the warming center closes in 3-ish
Yes,
weeks.
yeah.
So, I mean, yes, it'll be warmer, you know, it'll,
But
people, I don't think people will stop coming here, you know, it's still a place where they don't have to brave wind or rain and all of those sorts of elements.
this
Well-
is, I apologize.
No, go ahead.
This is legitimately my bleeding heart speaking. Could we go with both options?
I thought about it. I really did think about it. I have no problem with it because at this point in time, we don't really have a lot of different card types anyways that would make it overly confusing. Like some libraries have like, the libraries that sent me, you know, all their stuff, they would send me a link to their website and I would have to like scroll a fair amount to get to the point that they were talking about. So,
Because they have so many different card types.
yeah, and I'm not saying they have like 20, but it's more than like,
More than we've got.
more than what you would, yeah. So yeah, I am not opposed to doing both of them. Like I also had the same like, I would love to do both of them. I just didn't know how much you guys would have been in favor or opposed to them. And I don't know if I have said this yet, but I am willing to make adjustments to this because I am sure that there are holes or things not being covered here or phrased well.
So I'm just thinking, because like you said earlier, even though it feels very much like technology is becoming much more prevalent, and we do currently have a program that is running in Hillsdale County to help make phones available to low-income folks and folks that are unhoused and folks that otherwise wouldn't be able to access. So it is becoming more prevalent, and it is a problem that is actively being worked on right here in Hillsdale County. We still do have people who don't have access to technology who would benefit from being able to come and check a book out from the library.
The only other thing that was an idea that was presented to me by Ms. Voorhees was on the one card, it says under the rules, new books would not be allowed. Liz also said if we even restricted it down to paperbacks, because our paperback, I mean, those are the lowest, I hate to say that, but
But they're less valuable.
they are,
Yeah.
and I mean, for us to give cards to them anyways is already us, I hate to say it like this, but already us being generous because they are not able to pay us, they don't pay taxes to us.
Yeah.
So I don't think, I would love to give them access to everything, but that's not necessarily the way that libraries as a whole operate anyways. So I don't even know how we could make our ILS even go to just paperbacks. I'm
Mm.
sure there's a way, I just haven't had to do that. So, I just think anything that's not new, because those are our most valuable items, that, you know, those.
And you do know how to filter new items in the iOS.
Yes,
Okay.
it's just like paperbacks are a very specific part of like the fiction, so
Right.
that was just, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah. And we don't have to like
Hold on, no, because now I'm just thinking about this, because I also don't wanna limit, like, these are members of our population.
Mhm.
Whether they are paying property tax or not, they live here in our city, they are benefiting, and quite frankly, with our lowering literacy rates, which we just spoke about a few minutes ago, and the fact that we want to provide these services for the humans in our town.
Right.
I don't really wanna limit, and so my thought process is I understand that we also don't wanna lose things, we don't want things damaged. This is being generous, and this is putting things that we obviously spend money on.
Mhm.
What if we had a shelf
That was no, okay.
behind the counter?
Now let me tell you this before you finish.
Okay.
Another library told me that they let a lot of people, take things from their book sale
Mhm.
on the honor system. They don't charge them money, and they don't say, hey, Rebecca, you took this book and you never brought it back, what's up with that? They do that as well, where it's no library card necessary, they can go to our book sale, take a book and bring it back whenever they can. Because we're not losing a whole lot there,
Mhm.
really. So just put that out there.
Okay,
I'm
so, sorry. So my thought was, what if it is new fiction, say? Instead of them leaving the library with the book, because I could see people coming back day after day and reading.
And
And trying to finish.
we encourage that already.
Yeah.
So, but the fear being, I'm gonna get halfway through this book and then somebody's gonna come check it out because it is the new big thing, and then I'm not gonna be able to finish because now it's on holds for a month and a half.
Yeah, right.
Like, what if we had a shelf that it was an internal checkout system? They have their checkout, you know, it's their amount of time, but it just can't leave.
Mhm.
It goes on that shelf,
Yeah.
and maybe it's only the new fiction, maybe it's only hardcovers, but it is an internal checkout system. They can come back, they can read it here, but it is theirs. Nobody else can check it out in that moment that they have it checked out.
I see what you're saying, okay.
An internal holds shelf.
So
where
yeah, they
something's
check
checked
it
out
out,
to a
it just
patron,
never leaves.
Check it out, but it doesn't leave.
but it stays in the
That's a great
library.
That's not a bad idea, I'll write that down.
I'm sorry, not to fill up the shelves behind the counter too, but.
Well, I wonder if this would be such a volume that it would really, that read limiting to paperback, right?
Oh, I
Especially
don't think
since-
so,
since
yeah,
that would rule out most nonfiction, right?
pretty much.
And-
Yeah, I don't think
Is that
limiting to
necessary?
paperbacks
I don't
is
think so
necessary.
either, it just like, if we truly did have a bunch of people coming in and doing that, which would be
could
cool
adjust,
anyways, because
right?
that helps
Yeah.
with circulation.
Yeah.
And if we start losing valuable items,
Maybe
then we have to
maybe we
revise
could
the policy.
Yeah, but yeah,
I think it's worth giving it a try before
yeah,
assuming
yeah,
the worst, I guess.
that's, yeah.
I would say, let's come up with the most generous policy we think is
Yeah.
prudent. And then we can impose restrictions if it turns out that that generosity is being abused.
Yeah,
Yep, okay, I agree with that. The only, and I don't know again how much you guys had read all of this, but, at the very last thing under both rules just says, at any point, the library can revoke that type of card if it is in the best interest of, on the one side it says the library and the book's welfare, or the library's electronic services, which that one more so pertains to our computers, so.
I think it's good to leave the door open for you to just make a
Mhm.
judgment call about an
Yeah.
individual patron and their use of our services,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Good. Yeah, I'm definitely in favor of seeing kind of a more finalized version of these brought up for official consideration
So both of them,
at a future meeting. I think so.
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
Yes.
Are you planning on doing 2 separate cards? It seems like just one card, but both services, just for simplicity.
Or would these would be separate cards, so someone could apply for a one card, which allows them to borrow physical materials, or an e-access card, which allows them access to electronic resources, or both?
I mean,
I would just put them together. My main concern here is this is a lot of different
It's confusing,
categories
yes.
for you. It just
Yeah.
the most
Put 'em
generous
together.
and
Yeah.
more importantly simplest thing. for
yeah,
you.
no, knowing that you guys would be comfortable with doing both, they could be lumped together.
This list of privileges could be lumped up
They
under
really
one
could,
card.
yeah, and it probably still would be called the one card because,
Now, I have to ask, it's all in capitals, O-N-E, is it an acronym?
no,
Okay, it's just,
I really wanted to come up with something, but I was not operating on all cylinders when, like, to come up with something that was like Hillsdale, and, so no, it's not.
it's fine. Alright,
Now, my only question for Stephanie, for the internal checkout system, does that pertain to all books or just new books?
what do you think?
So my thought process was if we were limiting the type of titles that we were allowing people to check out.
The limited ones could live on the internal shelf.
Yeah, the limited
Yeah.
ones could live on the internal shelf, but the things that were just openly allowing the one
That were fair
checkout
game
or one-
anyways.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but yep,
yeah.
anything that people were uncomfortable with thinking, okay, so maybe that is crossing the line of generosity
Right.
type idea, that could be an internal.
Okay.
Yeah, and I do think saying they can check out new items, but they're put on an internal hold shelf to be kept for them, and then maybe you put them on a timer and say, okay, if 3 days go by and they don't come back for this item, then we put it back out in circulation.
I would have it back, I'm sorry, not
No,
to
go
argue,
ahead,
but I
please.
would have it back like we would a normal hold. Or
Yeah.
not a normal hold, but like we would a normal checkout.
mode.
Just because, sometimes stuff comes up.
That is true, and the only other thing that I could say to this is that a lot of people, especially during the winter time, which is the only time I've been here so far, is that if they're in here, they normally spend the whole day in here. So I'm not saying I can read a whole book in 7 hours, but I could make a good dent. So I don't even know that it would take me a full,
Right, 2 weeks.
so.
Fun.
Okay.
But also, I hate to say this, and not to add more responsibility to our staff, but it's also along the same lines of if we have people who are coming in day after day, that's more people in the community that are looking out for our most vulnerable. Because you're gonna notice if they don't come and get their book.
That's true.
And it's kind of that Meals on Wheels style philosophy where Meals on Wheels delivery drivers, they're not responsible for that. Their job is not to actively check on these people. They're not medical professionals or anything like that, but they are one more point of communication to a vulnerable population who can say, hey, something's off here.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good point.
Any other comments or questions on that one? So I guess we'll look forward to seeing a kind of a more official draft for consideration next time.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Alright, so next on the agenda is new business. First, the parking lot and the stone wall. Who owns them and who's responsible for keeping them in good repair? Do we know?
So I emailed, her name is Selena from DPS.
Okay.
She said that so I don't believe I have a response to the actual stone wall, but I would probably just include all of it together.
Okay.
Is that the lower parking lot as well as the top one are a part of the library parcel, but the city takes care of them, manages them. That is the response that I got from her.
And you
And then
that includes the wall.
I don't know about the wall. I don't believe that I got a specific response about the wall. All I got was parking lot.
Okay.
So that's all that I got. She asked if I needed help with them. I did not need help with them. It was just a curiosity
We just want to know if repairs need to be done,
Mhm.
is that something we have to take the initiative on, we have to approve, come out of our budget? I think the answer is no, it's the city's business to keep those parking lots in good repair, as far as we can tell. But the wall remains a mystery.
The only thing is I know based on, I believe, something that maybe Karen had said something to me, maybe one of the staff, I'm not sure, that the Mitchell did at one point have their, cause they have some of stone wall along the back of their one alleyway that I believe that they got repaired.
Okay.
Now I know that the Mitchell is separate from us and all of that,
Mhm.
but I don't know who would have paid, I don't know who would have paid that.
Okay,
Knowing what the Mitchell's situation is on the whole, I really don't know. I don't know.
From the city, cause they're just renting, I doubt they would put the money into that.
The city?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
would assume so. I'm worried the same thing would happen. It might belong to the city, but is the city,
they
how
don't care
bad would
about
it
it.
have to bet?
Yeah.
So-
for the
I don't wanna
city?
say they don't care about it,
No,
but it's
no.
not their top priority to repair,
I
yeah.
don't know, it might be something still to look into, but then again, do we create a precedent where we're gonna start paying for it when it really
Everything.
belongs to the city?
Yeah.
yeah,
And right now, we can afford it, of course, but who
Yeah,
knows?
well, and so this is the thing, in regards to the wall, there are obvious big chunks missing at this point, and I don't know enough about stone repair. I just don't, that I feel like we're not necessarily looking to repair it, we're probably just looking to super glue it back, so it's all secure again, and kids aren't
yeah.
being kids and, you know, whatever. The other thing is, I guess I wouldn't be, and I know I've said this before, I wouldn't be opposed to paying for a portion to going in as a half, a third, or any sort of that. I wouldn't, like, I understand technically our patrons can use it.
Mhm.
Now, I will tell you, every day at 3 p.m., that parking lot is full, and it makes it seem like people are in the library, but they're just picking up their kids from a bus.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could pay for the
So the
top
question is, should the
or
school
something like that.
district be helping the city keep those?
It's not even Hillsdale schools.
It's,
Really?
it is like the county, the whole county,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
really.
The library is because we have, open enrollment,
Mhm.
the library is a kind of communal dropping zone, so I know there's a reading bus that comes here, I believe there's a Camden
Wow.
bus that comes here, these aren't Hillsdale communities, this isn't a Hillsdale community
It's-
school
it's
drop off.
School districts from all over the county.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
Parents who are utilizing open enrollment,
Mhm.
the bus comes, for Hillsdale kids, comes here and drops them.
Mhm.
And
Kids who live here,
kids who
but
live in
attend
Hillsdale, but
other
attend
schools
the
in
other
other
school
districts. Interesting.
Yes.
Okay. Good to know. Alright. Any other questions about that item?
You gotta organize with 6 different school districts, split it up, get them all to pay their
Yeah,
part.
start sending bills to all 12
We're
of
gonna
them
work
or
it like our
whatever.
township.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think I said this in my meeting with George, when you, like, I don't think it's actually in that terrible of a condition that it,
No,
like, nobody has actually approached the library about it, it was only brought up at a city council meeting.
yeah.
So,
So it sounds like the city council meeting could push the city administration to do something
Yeah.
about it, if the city
It's
council is so
definitely not gonna be a
considerate.
top priority.
Um,
The stone wall maybe, that
Yeah.
seems a little bit more of a
If
hazard.
it's a liability question and it's on city property, yes.
it also is in some ways historic, is it not?
The wall?
I'm not saying, you know, it's a landmark, historic sort of a thing, but I think it is
Old?
old, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I have no idea, I'm afraid.
Cause wasn't it?
Go ahead.
I mean, it was a car dealership
This
Yeah,
building?
they built it.
many years ago.
But
I don't
also,
remember if it was a two-tiered, like.
but also it's behind the Mitchell.
Right.
So would the car dealership have built it behind the Mitchell?
Built a rustic stone wall behind the Mitchell.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't.
Doesn't sound right, does it?
No, no idea.
All right. Anything else on that? No? Okay. Next item, the director's annual review. The director has very kindly provided her self-evaluation to the board. So the next step is each of the other board members need to come up with their own evaluations, fill out their own evaluation forms to send to me. So your evaluation forms are due to me by April 30th, and then I need to turn around and based on the director's evaluation and your input, create the final formal evaluation with written comments that I need to have ready by May 15th.
So, okay, can
Yes.
I kind of included this in the email when I sent it to everybody. I think that needs to be reformed a little bit.
Oh no.
No, go ahead. There's been so much back and forth over the
Okay.
past, like,
And so
since
maybe,
2020 about the evaluation process. Oh my gosh.
maybe it's just more so clarification.
Please.
So again, in my actual review, there's something, or in the actual form, it has to do with daily statistics.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody here knows what that is. Nobody really does that.
Okay.
We do statistics and I do inspect things on a regular basis, but
The door count?
that's it as well. I wasn't sure if that meant reference questions and the door count, and I believe that's really the only two daily things that we take, but in terms of circulation or anything else, like nothing happens on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that really would have been the only thing, but it's in two different spots. So
Daily statistics.
daily, one of them might say daily circulation.
Mm.
It for sure says daily statistics are current. Daily statistics are current. You would think because they're daily that they would be current, but again,
Yeah.
it probably sounds bad, but I legitimately had to ask if anybody else ever took daily statistics and nobody knew what I was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe if we just need to rework what that
Yeah.
is asking.
Yeah. That's obviously unclear. If you're not creating reports on a daily basis, the system is working every day. Every time somebody checks something out through the ILS or walks through the gate counter, we are getting stats. But you only need to report stats once a month.
And I think I
Yeah.
also had written that somewhere is
I
that
saw that.
I report stuff every month, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't do anything necessarily daily.
Maybe it should be amended to monthly or regular.
Yeah. Are daily circulation statistics current? Yeah, this is under number 5, statistical accountability. Are daily circulation statistics current? I have to confess,
Riddle.
we used this evaluation tool last year,
And I don't remember
and
that.
I don't remember taking any special note of that question. I don't remember anybody discussing it. I do of course recall that statistics were presented routinely and clearly, and that was very well done. But I think we could just take that out because that doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Oh, yes, because then they're on supervision.
I
our
mean,
statistical
we'll call it-
records
It's there again.
Yep.
So yeah.
compiled
So-
accurately and on a daily basis.
And on a daily basis.
And-
Nobody needs statistics compiled on a daily
And
basis.
I demand daily statistics.
I mean, I really do think it does pertain to the door counter and the reference questions, but
Sure.
the thing is I wouldn't be able to do my monthly report if we weren't doing that anyway.
Exactly.
Like, it would be out of,
If the monthly stats are accurate, it's because you kept regular count of everything.
yeah, and
Right.
when you look at like monthly, like nothing's like that anomalous one way or the other that would be like, oh, something got messed up, so.
Okay.
Mhm.
Good to know.
I do think next year we should use the tool as it exists for the remainder of this process, but next year we can adjust that language.
Okay.
And next year we could even have a meeting where you and I sit down, we put it on the agenda maybe for the January meeting to reconsider the tool and make refinements. You and I can sit down and go through it page by page, and you can say, I don't understand this, or this doesn't make sense, or what is this, and we can bring it to the full board and make changes as
Well,
necessary.
and I think part of the problem too is that I haven't been here long enough, but I also
Yeah.
think, if I understand, I think Jessica started roughly around the same time I did, so she would have been in the same position that I was in.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So she was doing a partial year's
Yeah,
self-evaluation. Yeah.
But that was still, cause didn't she do one
Yeah, it was
of
an
the
older,
old,
yeah. She
one
made
of
this
the old
one, basically.
evaluations, and
Oh,
then Jessica
okay.
put this one in, and we did this
And
one
we did
for
this
her
one.
this last year.
Yeah.
So this is only the second time this evaluation tool has been used.
Okay,
Right. This
okay.
is not an ancient and venerable
Nope.
tradition. This is, yeah, the second time we've used this tool.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions from the director or members of the board about this process? And it does specify in the policy that board members can seek out input from, let's see, it says, upon receiving, board members may elect to consult the city manager or library staff. So if you want to have private meetings with either Mr. Mackey or members of the staff to get input on your evaluation of the director, that is open to you.
Okay.
Well, it's open to you in our policies, whether or not Mr. Mackey and members of the staff agree to make time for that is up to them, I
Yes.
suppose.
Quick question, George, you said
Yes,
we need to return our emails to you by the 30th, and
Yes.
then you will do something by May 15th.
and then by May 15th, I need to take everybody's input to write the final formal evaluation, including written comments, yes. And then I need to bring that to the board for approval, which it does specify may be held in closed session at the request of the director if necessary, prior to June 1st. So it says by May 15th. I would want to have bring something to the table for the whole board and the director to look at publicly at the May meeting. So that'll be well before May 15th. So I'd say within a week of getting everybody's evals. Of course, if everybody gets me their stuff well before April 30th, then I'll have more time to do that. So,
Okay.
I can certainly, there's no reason I shouldn't be able to have something ready by the date of the May meeting, whatever that might be.
Okay.
So in May of this year, so the May meeting will be the 9th of May this year. So I'll certainly try to have my own final evaluation and bring that to the table at the regular May meeting. Okay. Any other questions about that? Okay. Seeing none, the next item is board comments. Any general comments from members of the board?
I have something to include that really should be under the Friends of the Library.
Oh, okay.
Their meeting for the month of March is not going to be held here because we will be closed on that day again.
Okay.
It is being moved to, do you know?
Nope, haven't heard a thing.
Hold on, Bree texted me something.
Friends of the library have to find a new friend for the day.
So it's one of those 326, 328 days?
Yeah, it's the 26th.
Okay.
She said Feather Studios?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Feather Studios. So at same time, same date, different location.
All right. Anything else from the director or members of the board this month? Going once, going twice. All right. Our next meeting date will be Thursday, April 11th at 5 p.m. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.